You are not going to believe what happened in Chicago last night. A 23-year-old rookie who had never stepped foot in a major league batter's box before Tuesday evening just did something that only 4 other human beings have done in the entire history of baseball. And here's the part that will make your jaw drop. He didn't just get a hit. He didn't just hit a home run. He ended the game. Walk-off in his debut. The Chicago White Sox, a franchise that has seen more losing seasons than most fans care to remember, just witnessed something that literally happens once every 15 years on average across the entire sport. But before I tell you why this moment almost didn't happen and why the Braves are still trying to figure out what hit them, let me ask you something. Have you ever imagined what it would feel like to have the game of your life happen in front of your parents, your childhood friends, and 40,000 strangers all screaming your name? Now multiply that feeling by 1,000, because Braden Montgomery didn't just live that dream, he rewrote what a dream even looks like. The White Sox entered the 10th inning trailing by a run. Their playoff hopes, yes, I said playoff hopes, because Chicago is actually good this year, were hanging by a thread. And then a kid who was playing in AAA Charlotte less than 48 hours earlier stepped up to the plate against one of the most reliable closers in baseball. Raisel Iglesias is not some rookie. This is a guy with over 200 career saves, a pitcher who has made all-star teams, a pitcher who has struck out some of the best hitters on the planet. And Montgomery, he had exactly one career at-bat before this moment. One. That single in the 4th inning that drove in his first RBI? That was cute. But what happened next was something else entirely. 2 straight changeups from Iglesias. The first one, Montgomery fouled off. The second one, he didn't miss. 343 feet later, the ball was over the left field fence. The crowd had lost its collective mind, and Montgomery was being mobbed by teammates who looked like they had just witnessed a miracle. Here's what makes this statistically insane. According to the Elias Sports Bureau, and these are the people who track every weird baseball record you can imagine, Montgomery became only the 5th player in MLB history to hit a walk-off home run in his very first game. Let me repeat that. 5 players in over 150 years of professional baseball. The list is so exclusive it's almost comical. Carlos Perez did it in 2015. Miguel Cabrera, yes, that Miguel Cabrera, the future Hall of Famer, did it back in 2003. Josh Bard in 2002, and Billy Parker in 1971. That's it. That's the entire club. And now Braden Montgomery has a membership card that might never get another stamp. But here's where the story gets even more interesting, and frankly a little uncomfortable for the Atlanta Braves. Let me paint you a picture of what led up to this moment, because context matters, and honestly, the White Sox almost botched this game so badly that Montgomery's heroics would have been completely irrelevant. Chicago had 3 runners thrown out at home plate. 3 in one game. That is not a typo. Chase Meidroth got caught on a failed safety squeeze in the 4th inning. Then Randall Grichuk got nailed at the plate on another squeeze play in the 6th inning. And just to make sure the message was crystal clear, pinch runner Derek Hill also got thrown out on a single to right field in that same inning. I don't know if you've ever watched a baseball game where a team runs itself out of scoring opportunities 3 separate times, but let me tell you, it is the kind of frustration that makes managers want to pull their hair out. Will Venable, the Chicago skipper, used a word after the game that you don't hear often from professional managers. He called the team's situational execution a disaster. His words, not mine. And here's the part I actually respect. He put the blame on himself. That starts with me, Venable said. Just putting on the right plays and putting these guys in the right spots. That's on me. Now, I've watched a lot of post-game interviews, and I can tell you that most managers would have found a way to deflect at least some of that criticism, but Venable took it all. And you know what? That kind of accountability is exactly why this Chicago White Sox team is different from the versions we've seen in recent years. Because here's the thing about the 2026 White Sox, they keep winning close games. This was their 17th comeback victory of the season. They are now 13-6 in games decided by 1 run. For those of you who have followed this franchise through the dark times, you understand how absurd that stat is. This is a team that would have found a way to lose this game in any of the previous 3 seasons. They would have made one of those base-running mistakes and then another one, and then they would have folded like a cheap lawn chair. But not this year, not this team, and certainly not on a night when history was waiting to be written. Let me take you back to the 10th inning for a second, because the setup here is almost too perfect. The Braves had taken the 5-4 lead. Iglesias was on the mound. 2 outs, nobody on base. The game was 90% over by any statistical measure. Most rookies in that situation are just trying to make contact. They're trying not to strike out and look foolish in their debut. They're trying to put the ball in play and hope something good happens. But Montgomery wasn't thinking like a rookie. According to people who were in the dugout, he told his teammate Kyle Teal before the at-bat that he felt something special coming. And look, I know how that sounds. Every player says that after they do something amazing. But here's what makes it different. Montgomery had already proven he could handle the moment earlier in the game. Let me rewind a few hours before that 10th inning magic, because Montgomery's debut wasn't just about one swing. In the 4th inning, with runners in scoring position, he lined a single to left field that drove in his first career RBI. That was his first career hit, first at bat, first RBI. Most players would have been thrilled with that as their debut highlight reel. But here's the thing about Braden Montgomery that you need to understand. This kid has been on a rocket ship to the big leagues, and nothing about Tuesday night surprised the people who know him best. According to MLB Pipeline, Montgomery is the number 21 prospect in all of baseball, and the second-ranked prospect in the White Sox organization. He came over from Boston in the Garrett Crochet trade, which at the time was seen as a blockbuster move for Chicago. And if you're keeping score at home, that trade is looking better by the day. Kyle Teal, who came with Montgomery from the Red Sox organization, was behind the plate for this entire game. He watched the home run from the best seat in the house, and after the game, Teal was talking about Montgomery's power to the opposite field like he had seen it 100 times before, because he has. These two came up through the minor leagues together. They've been teammates, they've been trade partners, and now they're both wearing White Sox uniforms and making history.
There's something poetic about that, isn't there? The call-up itself happened Monday when Montgomery got the news from Charlotte manager Chad Pinder. Think about that phone call for a second. You're 23 years old. You've been grinding in the minor leagues, living out of hotels, eating post-game spreads that would make a food critic cry. And then someone tells you that you're going to the show. Not only that, you're going to start the very next day against the Atlanta Braves, one of the best teams in the National League. The Braves came into this game with a 45-22 record. That is not a typo. They are absolutely stacked. And yet, none of that seemed to matter to Montgomery. His parents were in the stands. Countless friends and family members had made the trip to Chicago. And in the biggest moment of his life, with the game on the line and one of the best closers in baseball staring him down, he delivered. But here's my favorite part of the entire post-game interview. Someone asked Montgomery what he does for an encore after a debut like that. And with a wry smile, he said, "I guess from here on out, it's all downhill? The highest of the highs. We'll see." That, right there, is the perfect answer. It's humble, it's funny, and it acknowledges the absurdity of what just happened. Because let's be real, how do you top a walk-off home run in your first game? You don't. You just show up the next day and try to be a good teammate. And from everything I've heard about this kid, that's exactly what he's going to do. Now, let me share something that might get lost in all the excitement of Montgomery's heroics. The White Sox are actually good this year. I know, I had to read that sentence twice myself. Chicago improved to 35-36 with this win. They moved within half a game of the Cleveland Guardians for the American League Central lead. And here's a stat that should terrify every other team in the division. The White Sox are 17-3 in their last 20 home games. 17-3. At home, Rated Field has become a fortress, and the Southside magic that fans have been waiting for since 2005 is starting to feel real again. Eric Fed started this game and allowed only one earned run over 5 innings. Grant Taylor came in relief and threw 2 innings, allowing just 1 unearned run, and got credited with the win. Miguel Vargas hit his 16th home run of the season, a 2-run shot that kept the White Sox in the game. This is not a one-man show. This is a team that has figured something out. And here's what I find most fascinating about this entire situation. Montgomery became the 12th White Sox player to make his major league debut this season. 12 rookies have gotten the call. That is an incredible number, and it speaks both to the depth of Chicago's farm system and the willingness of the organization to trust young players. Most teams would be terrified to put that many rookies on the field. The White Sox are embracing it, and it's working. But let me circle back to Venable for a moment, because I think his reaction to this game tells you everything you need to know about why this team is different.
Most managers, after a walk-off win, would be doing backflips. They'd be talking about heart and character and never giving up. And Venable did acknowledge the win, but he also called the team's execution a disaster and took responsibility for it. That is the mindset of a manager who knows that one magical moment doesn't erase fundamental problems. He's not satisfied, he's not complacent, he's demanding more, even after a win that will be replayed on highlight shows for years. And that, honestly, is exactly what this organization is needed. For too long, the White Sox have been a team that celebrates small victories while ignoring big problems. Venable isn't letting that happen. He's pushing, he's holding people accountable, and he's doing it in a way that players respect because he's also holding himself accountable. When he says, "That's on me," it's not just talk. Players hear that, they see that, and they respond to it. I've covered enough sports to know that culture matters more than talent in the long run. Talent wins games, culture wins championships, and the culture Venable is building in Chicago looks legitimate. So, where do the White Sox go from here? Well, they're half a game out of first place in the American League Central. They have a rookie who just announced his arrival in the most dramatic way possible, a manager who refuses to accept mediocrity, and a fan base that hasn't had this much hope in a long time. But let me give you my honest opinion on this whole situation. What Braden Montgomery did on Tuesday night was incredible. It was historic. It was the kind of moment that reminds you why sports are worth caring about. But here's what I think matters even more than the home run itself. Montgomery didn't try to do too much. He didn't swing for the fences on the first pitch. He took a changeup, fouled it off, and then waited for another one. That shows composure, that shows preparation, that shows a kid who understands that baseball is a game of adjustments, not just physical talent, and that bodes well for his future, because the league is going to adjust to him now. Pitchers are going to study that at bat, they're going to look for weaknesses, they're going to test him with pitches he hasn't seen before. The real test for Montgomery isn't whether he can hit a walk-off home run in his debut. The real test is whether he can handle the slump that inevitably comes, whether he can stay grounded when the attention fades, whether he can be the same guy in July that he was in June. From everything I've seen and heard, I think he can. The way he handled the post-game interview, the self-deprecating humor, the humility, the credit he gave to his teammates in the city of Chicago, that tells me he gets it. He understands that one moment doesn't define a career. He understands that the work continues tomorrow. And for White Sox fans who have endured some truly brutal baseball over the past few years, that might be the most encouraging sign of all. This isn't a fluke. This isn't luck. This is a young player with a mature approach and a team that is learning to win. The Braves are going to wake up on Wednesday morning still trying to figure out what hit them. Iglesias is going to replay that changeup in his head for weeks. And somewhere in Chicago, a 23-year-old rookie is probably going to wake up, look at his phone, and realize that his life just changed forever. But here's the thing about baseball. There's another game tomorrow. There's always another game tomorrow. And that's what makes this sport so beautiful. You can have the greatest night of your career, and then you have to show up and do it all over again. Montgomery knows that, the White Sox know that, and if they keep playing the way they've been playing, October baseball in Chicago might not be a dream anymore. It might be the next chapter in a story that just got a whole lot more interesting. As for the question everyone is asking, can the White Sox actually win the division? They're right there, 17-3 at home, a rookie who looks like he belongs, a manager who holds everyone accountable, and a fan base that is starting to believe again. I'm not saying they're going to win the World Series. I'm not even saying they're going to make the playoffs, but I am saying that something special is happening on the South Side, and Braden Montgomery's walk-off home run might be remembered as the moment everything changed. Not bad for a kid who was in AAA 48 hours ago.